Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm looking rough today. No, I did not shave yesterday, and I have not shaved yet today. I'm trying to keep the sun out. Look at that. I'm Loren Michaels Harris, and good morning, and welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. Yes, it is a true fact that I did not shave yesterday and today. I worked a little bit yesterday, but mainly I relaxed and did housework and opened my Easter basket and made Easter dinner, which was really great. We had lack of ram. Lord have mercy, Jesus. Rack of lamb. Did you hear what I said? I said lack of ram. Okay, luckily I have my new mug, which says, love you to the moon and back, which was found inside of my Easter basket. Hi, Lisa Queen B, Jeremiah V, Tom Iland. Good morning to all of you, Jack Ryder. Oh, my goodness. Well, and I also had a quick road trip this weekend wherein I drove to Michigan and did that Friday. Spoke early morning. Well, I sang first early morning and then went back for a lunch keynote for the Whirlpool Corporation, and then visited family and made my way home. So anyway, just one of those weekends. And as you know, since you heard me say that yesterday I prepared lack of ram instead of rack of lamb, I think that pretty well tells you what kind of weekend I had, right? Michael Kyra, good morning to you. Tucker Bearden's here. Well, today, everyone, as we start our Monday off, our week, it is World Autism Awareness Day, also World Autism Acceptance Day. Aaron Garcia, good morning to you. Is there a difference? Oh, you bet your bippy there is, and we're going to talk about it this morning. I have two people on the show this morning that both have been prior guests, both live within the world of autism, and both have different stories and whatnot about that. So we have Tom Iland back, who was my very first guest about 6, almost 7 weeks ago. He has a book called Come to Life, which we'll get a little bit into, but we're going to really talk about today. What we're really going to talk about is the difference between awareness and acceptance. There's a little something going on in there, and we're going to get down to it today. And I'm also going to bring Tucker Bearden on. They're going to split the show today. Tucker's going to go second right after Tom finishes. I'm trying to get it where it's not so... Okay. And really talk about what this is. I saw that Tom was here, but first, before we get into that, I wanted to welcome everyone to the Monday installment of Bathrobe Moments. Of course, I'm your host, Loren Michaels Harris, and I just wanted to say, in case I missed you yesterday, Happy Easter, happy belated Easter to each and every one of you. I hope you had a wonderful time with your family and the kids and the great dinners, and perhaps you visited your place of worship. It is the reason for the season. So anyway, here we are in April. And then I just heard on the news last night that here in Illinois, we may get rain tomorrow that turns into snow tomorrow night. Right? My daffodils have already bloomed. Well, they haven't opened, but, they have them. They have them on the end. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect, what's going on with this weather. But anyway, Tom Iland and Tucker Bearden, both gentlemen who live within the world of autism, are with us today, and they're going to help us understand why it's important that awareness and acceptance, first of all, that we understand the difference, and then second of all, why one may or may not be more or less important than the other. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. So I'm going to go back and see if I can find Mr. Tom and get him in here, and we'll get started. There he is. Okay, I've invited Tom. So we'll see what happens. So, it was interesting yesterday that Easter fell on the same day as April Fool. And, for the first time in a long time, as long as I can remember, I think out of respect for Easter, I couldn't pull any of my April Fool's shenanigans. and I had none pulled on me. What about you? Did you find that because the 2 days fell together yesterday, that not very many people were pulling April Fool pranks? What is it with me and my speech today? Good moogly. Okay, Tom, I'm wondering if I missed you. Hold on, everybody. I'm going to scroll back up. I saw where Tom came in. Good morning, Todd Vogel. Good morning, John Whitewood Moneth. There's Tucker. Bev Pete Starks, good morning to you. It just asked me if I wanted to bring myself into this video. Are you kidding me? Oh, Tom Iland, there you were. What did you say? Wait a minute. Oh, they're putting their websites and stuff in. Dylan Ali, good morning to you. Okay, and Rich NJ, good morning. I'm trying to find where Tom Iland is. Tom, oh Tom, where are you? Lorena Simpson, good morning to you. Oh, Tucker had a prank pulled on him. We'll have to ask him about that. Tom, I invited you. Kate Cleary, good morning to you, all the way from sunny California, I'm assuming. Hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Valentine. Okay, that's it. That's my third senior moment in like 3 minutes. Easter. It was Easter, not Valentine's Day. And I said that 3 times yesterday. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, my goodness. You know, they're going to have to put one of those old people leashes on me soon because I think I'm going to just like start walking off. Tom, you said you're here. Okay, well, you need to... Okay, wait a minute. Hi, Edith. How are you? Bring Tom on camera. Okay. It says I cannot bring you on camera, Tom. Why is that? Getting you. You know, and what is this brightness? I don't like it. Hi, Tom.
Here we go.
How are you?
Good morning, friend. Good to see you.
I'm awfully bright. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to go this way. Okay, there. Okay, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good, good. There goes that. I don't know what's going on with that. Welcome to Monday, World Autism Awareness / Acceptance Day. And I was telling the folks that both you and Tucker Bearden, who's here, you're going to split the show today between the two of you. I wanted to talk about a couple different things because yesterday on my page, when you shared the meme that I put out, good morning, Scott Gain and Edith. There was Thea Johnson Swaffer. Good morning to you too. There was a woman on there who seemed a little upset that we said it was National or World Autism Awareness Day, and she kind of went off because it's also World Awareness Autism Acceptance Day, and she almost said it. I'm assuming she is a person of autism or is involved in it.
Yes, I do know who this woman is, and she lives down in Southern California near me, and this has been an up and rising movement, you could say, in the autism community, that awareness is one thing, but acceptance is another. And I think as this interview unfolds, we'll start talking about the difference between the two and why so many people on the spectrum are looking and leaning towards acceptance more than just awareness. Awareness is not enough anymore. It's about accepting and liking people for who they are, and also accepting people for themselves. Because when it comes to an autism diagnosis, you could know you have one, or people could know you have one, but whether or not they like you and appreciate you for you, that remains to be seen in some cases.
Okay, well, I get that. Well, first of all, let me start by reading to everyone what I found on the Autism Acceptance site, not the Autism Awareness site. I just don't want to march in front of my house later today. So,
right.
Autism autism is a developmental disability, which affects how an autistic person thinks, learns, uses their senses, moves their bodies, communicates, and relates to other people. Between 1% and 2% of people in the United States are thought to have an autism spectrum diagnosis. And as we learn more about autism, more and more people are currently being diagnosed. Experts currently suspect that the true number of autistic people in the United States is just a little bit higher. So it is something that's out there. Now, I want to ask, because I thought about this after I read what she said and how you calmed her down and gently stroked her. Well, I was like, well, wait a minute. When Tom and I were talking about this show, I went back and I looked, and you originally reached out and you said, hey, why don't I come on April 2nd? Because it is World Autism Awareness Day, even though you previously had said awareness / acceptance. So you did tell me about both, but I missed the acceptance when I read it. Now that in and of itself makes me go, but then is it fair to those of us out here who, because I did not know that acceptance was such a big deal. It makes sense once you hear it, but do you not think that these two things kind of go hand in hand?
They do, and I would say in order for you to accept something, you would need to be aware of it first, because you can't act on what you don't know about. So first you need to know about autism and what it is and how it affects a person, and then comes the acceptance part, because as we know, when we're children, we fear what we don't understand. So you could know about something but still not be all right with it, or reject somebody because they have it or because they have something you don't understand. And
let me ask you this, because
Sure.
I just need to know, because oftentimes when there is a need for both of these things, awareness and acceptance, sometimes people get caught up in the battle of who's doing it right and who's not doing it right. And when I saw, she kind of said something negative, if you remember, about the awareness people.
Mm-hmm.
And because she used a $, if you remember, instead of the S. And I picked up on that. And I was thinking, okay, well, she obviously has something she doesn't think that they're doing right or whatever. But what does that say to me, the person who's just trying to learn more about the overall idea of what it means from A to Z? And I see people within that should have the same objective kind of battling it out.
Right. And funny you mentioned A to Z, because my mother actually wrote an entire book on this topic with her sister, my aunt. The book is called Autism Spectrum Disorders from A to Z. You can find it on Amazon and through Future Horizons. They're an autism publisher. But I think, and again, I want you, Loren, to not take anything these people say personally.
Oh, I don't. I'm playing devil's advocate, because I figure if I think it, then other people might think it too. And we're the ones you're trying to pull in and make aware and getting to a point of acceptance. So, but if we have a reason to go, oh, look at all that infighting.
And there is a lot of internal battling and a little bit of a war, if you will, within the autism community as to how exactly to define it or how to say it. There's still an underlying battle about, do I say you're autistic, which is identity first language, or do I say you have autism, which is person first language? In my family, we use person first language. I'm Tom, I have autism, or I'm on the autism spectrum. I don't say I'm Tom and I'm autistic. I don't let my diagnosis define me, and I think that's played a huge part in my success. But in the community, there are people that are so hell-bent on calling themselves autistic that they will not accept people or don't want to have anything to do with people that say autistic or not. So the whole autistic and proud movement, but pretty much they're not able to get out of their own way, in a sense, when really, whether you're identity first or person first language based, we all still struggle with the same difficulties. We all want to live happy and productive lives, and I think our unity and our similarities matter more than our differences.
Mm-hmm.
And who cares how we really say it or define it? We really need to focus on what we have in common and how we can help each other out instead of how we can divide each other or how to define this thing.
Exactly. And I totally agree with that. You know, we've got examples of how every movement has either moved or been stuck for a while.
Yes.
Excuse me. And for example, African Americans during the
Yes.
civil rights period, first we were colored, and then
Right.
we were Negro, and then we were black, and then we were African American.
Mm-hmm.
So, and oftentimes a lot of that indwelling, that bickering within the group who was trying to reach that point of acceptance or equality or what have you, stirred up a lot of the, you know, BS to keep it real. So I just wondered about that, but there's a lot more. There's a lot of people who do get it, and there are a lot of people who want to get it, and there's even more people who need to get it. So let's talk about that, because I think that's even more important. I did find on the Autism Acceptance site that they describe it in a nutshell. They say Autism Acceptance Month is basically about treating autistic people with respect, listening
Mm-hmm.
to what we have to say about ourselves and making us welcome in the world. Now, I didn't realize that people, see, I don't know which one to say now, people with autism or autistic people.
I know it's almost like it's creating more problems than answers there, but and you are certainly entitled to your own speech, how you want to say it, what you want to say. It's your show, your life.
Well, what's the politically correct way? What's the least offensive way?
And that depends on the person you're talking to. That's one of the difficulties in the community today is
Now, see what I
you're
mean?
saying, how you're saying it. Is it offensive? Is it not offensive?
And see,
It's
we
getting
didn't,
us
the
stuck.
people without autism or the non-autistic people or person
Right.
isn't the one who created that fear of what to say. So if I'm afraid to even address it because you all have set up a thing where I don't know which one of you I'm talking to,
Right.
isn't it going to be easier for a person like me just to keep my damn mouth shut?
I would say silence is not the answer
That's
at
what I
all.
mean. But that's what it's
Yeah.
going to invoke in me, which is going to take me further away from talking about it, acceptance. So what's really going on, Tom?
Okay.
What's really
I would say
important here?
what's really important here is we have moved away from the days of seeing autism as an illness or a disease that requires curing. That's from the awareness days.
Okay.
Nowadays, we're seeing that autism is not a disease, it's not an illness, and it's not something that should have a cure found for it. It's something that's here to stay. And as you saw in the statistics that you mentioned earlier, it's happening and coming up more and more frequently in our society today. So rather than hope it goes away, rather than wish it away from the planet, accept that it is part of us and that it is a valuable asset more than a liability.
Right.
And it is understanding, empathy, and overall acceptance, seeing the person for who they are and that they don't have to be changed. Yes, they could probably use some help in their lives, but that doesn't mean that you should be looking to change them. They're still there themselves at their core. And this is another thing that people with autism struggle with. It's like, are you looking to help me or are you looking to change me? People with autism can't really tell the difference. Everyone could use some help to be their best selves or to improve on something that they need help with. But if they feel like their identity is being threatened or they're not being able to live the life that they want, then that's when everything starts to break down.
Right. So let me ask you where you stand as far as awareness acceptance. Do you feel like there needs to be a third entity that incorporates both of those so that maybe that in and of itself will do away with that chasm that seems to be dividing that movement? Because what your awareness and acceptance are both movements.
They are. And if I were to be the change that I want to see in the world, as Gandhi would say, I'd like to see this evolve into Autism Action Month.
Because
We've got
acceptance
awareness.
is an action.
Yes, and also it's what you do to help people. You could say, yeah, I like you for who you are, but what are you doing in that person's life to make it better? Or what are you doing to help them be their best selves? We need more action in the autism community because, particularly when it comes to employment, over 90% of people with autism have no job or are not given a chance to find productive, full-time, gainful employment. So
And why
employers,
not?
because their skills or lack their social skills, I should say, or lack thereof, become very obvious in an interview, or communication skills are not something that people with autism know naturally or through experience in talking with others. They need to be explicitly taught. Look someone in the eye when you're talking to them if you can, or stay on topic when you're having a conversation. Think about the other person. Yes, you may want to talk about Star Wars all day. I'm wearing my Yoda bathrobe today and drinking from a Darth Vader mug here.
Right.
But that's not going to be our whole topic of conversation here. Whereas if you knew me 20 years ago, I could talk about this for about a good couple hours. People with autism have difficulty relating to others because they just want to talk about themselves and what they like. Whereas, as I've learned over the years from reading books like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, for example, it's about relating to others and hearing what others have to say. So as we teach people, because people with autism need direct, explicit instruction on what to do, how to behave, how to succeed, what they need to know. But it starts with them knowing themselves, loving themselves, and being themselves. And that's why I wrote my book, Come to Life, available at my website there. But I would have to say more action has to be taken. Less talk, more action in helping people with autism be their best selves. And even if it means approaching them, because right now they're sitting back on the couch waiting for life to come to them, tell them they have to be the ones to come to life. And I know that can be difficult playing video games all day. And if there's anybody with autism listening today, I want to say,
oh, there's a few.
Yeah, take it from the horse's mouth, pun intended. And I'm not a horse. This is my horse's mouth. But put the video games down.
I bit myself in my sleep. Sorry, I just realized I bit myself.
You got something on your mouth?
No, I bit myself in my sleep. I remembered the dream exactly. Oh my goodness. Anyway, another show. But okay, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. But back to the overall theme of today. Yes. Is it, first of all, is it World Autism Awareness / Acceptance Month? Is it just today?
Today is officially World Autism Awareness Day, but the entire month of April is recognizing autism, both its gifts that it brings as well as the challenges that people that have it face.
Okay, and there's a thing,
a daily basis.
There's a thing about going blue too, right? Wearing blue to support. I didn't know about that either.
Yes, this was started through the organization Autism Speaks, and I'm on the board of Autism Speaks in the Southern California chapter. Basically, they chose blue as the color associated with autism, and recognizing how many people it affects, the challenges as well as the gifts that people with autism have. And so they're bringing awareness to that by making a series of landmarks around the country and the world, the color of blue today. And on this Thursday night, maybe not the night, but definitely this Thursday, April 5th, at the United Nations in New York, they will be recognizing autism and the challenges that come with it, specifically with women. The theme of Thursday night's special meeting will be about empowering women on the spectrum.
Okay.
Because not only it does happen more often in boys than girls, but it is happening in girls and women as well. They are on the spectrum. They go through same challenges as men do, and also have a number of stories to tell.
Right. Well, I found some things interesting. Well, first of all, of course, we're going to be at this type of a juncture wherein autism and how to deal with the autistic person, oh my God, is basically a new thing. 1944 is when autism and the whole thing came out if you will, where people were beginning to talk about it. Leo Kanner, ring a bell? 1944. This was the first time. Before then, according to my research, people with autism or autistic people, so you got me scared about which way to say it, were considered insane. Now, I didn't know that. And that's just crazy. No pun intended. But that's just crazy. But that's how recent in our world it was a phantom. People had no idea. So we're still in the infancy stages of learning how to work with people, how to accept it and make it a part of our daily lives, whether you know someone or not. So let me ask you this. How do you propose those of us that don't know learn more? How do we do better to make that movement more and more successful? What can we do if we don't have someone with autism in our world that we know of?
Okay. Well, if you don't have someone with autism in your life now, or know someone who knows someone that has autism, there's a very good chance that you will. And I encourage you and your viewers or anybody else that might be listening today to welcome this person with open arms. It's the very least you can do, because this person has faced rejection and has been ostracized his or her entire life, can sense something is off about them. Maybe they haven't even received a diagnosis yet.
Right.
So rather than go in with that judging kind of mentality or thinking this person's going to be some kind of liability or a waste of your time, that is the worst thing that you can do for someone with autism. Instead, being friendly, being patient. Patience is a huge virtue when it comes to people with autism, because they may not look you in the eye the first time, or you may ask them a question, they don't respond, or they do something you find odd. But this is them coping with their own demons, if you will, or they're just looking to live the best life they can, or even in that moment, because depending on where they are on the spectrum, they could be totally calm or in total chaos. It just depends on the person and where they are at the moment. And also, mind you, when you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.
Well,
one person could be rocking back and forth. One person could be totally social, but then go on to talk about their favorite thing forever.
Well, that's my point. I mean, how do you know? I mean, it's not like they come down the street with a sign on that says, so how does one know?
That says, some of them actually do have little bracelets or something that might say they have autism if they don't speak. But there's so much uniqueness and so many differences. And it is an invisible diagnosis, and I do my best not to use the term disability in order to eliminate that stigma. So really, there's a lot that people with autism can offer, but they're not going to be the ones to necessarily initiate the conversation or say they need help or clarification. It's up to us to be open to the idea that differences are okay, and that these people do want to be happy and can succeed if we let them.
I agree. I'm doubling back real quick, because you mentioned that you're on the board for Autism Speaks. And so I want to ask you, since we opened up the conversation speaking to the division, within the 1 to 2%, that's a small, when you look at the overall populace, that's a small group of people trying to make a big move, a big change. Even more the reason to come together in agreement so that you can get to the rest of us. Am I right or wrong on this?
You are. It is a very small portion of the world, but at the same time, it's having a huge effect. It really does take a village to raise someone with autism. Everyone has their own stories, and slowly but surely these people are making a difference. But I think they could make an even bigger difference if they, like I mentioned earlier, put aside their differences, forget how to find what you say, how you say it. And I even met a gentleman who has autism, and works in Washington, D.C. His name is John Elder Robeson. He's the author of Look Me in the Eye and several other books, but he works directly with Washington, and he wants to tell our representatives how to help the autism community, but we as the community have to tell him what we want and what we need. So we need to come to some sort of agreement, take a step back, get out of our own way for a second, so we can communicate what we need ultimately to our representatives.
Okay, wonderful. So now we're coming around that final lap, so we can get Tucker Bearden in here, who, as you know, Tucker,
I do.
Suffers. I don't know if I should say suffers, but has Asperger's, deals with Asperger's, and so just like you all, each of you has your own unique set of challenges. I want to know from you. So what can I do today to help further the cause of awareness/acceptance wherein it pertains to autism in the world that you deal with? What can we do from where we live? Where can we go to get more information? What do you need from us to further your cause?
Excellent question. So one thing that my mother, Emily, and I have begun looking into and we're finding is missing in a lot of people's lives, people with autism's lives, is the process of self-discovery. And I've mentioned this on my first interview on Bathrobe Moments here with you, the idea of know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. It's my mantra and my secrets to success, because people with autism are being sent into the world or being asked a ton of questions that they don't know the answers to. What do you want to do? What are you good at? Where do you see yourself? So what my book, Come to Life, is, and I want you to promote this book, and I hope your viewers and people with autism watching will consider this book, because it will help you find the answers to those questions, and then you can start to live the life that you want. Because I think it's very true more often than not that people with autism are living a life that's not theirs or that they don't want, but they can't find it in themselves for whatever reason to say, I don't understand, or I'm sorry, I don't want this. They just kind of go with the flow, sort of like being in the passenger seat of the car and not saying, can we go somewhere else, please? So again, Come to Life, your guide to self-discovery. I'm the guide to self-discovery in that book. I'd be taking you, the reader, through it. Ultimately, people with autism do want to live happy and productive lives. So rather than dismissing the idea that they don't, see how they can take a look inside themselves and assume that they can. Because I know you may come across somebody with autism that doesn't seem like they're here and now at the moment, but they're still listening.
You're right.
They want to hear what you have to say, and they want friends. They want a good, happy life. So I say let's put them on the path to making that happen. I
agree. Well, I know for a fact I found a lot of great information at autismacceptancemonth.com and then also at autismspeaks.org. So I highly recommend everyone to find their way or just Google it. And because anything that we can ask another person, we can definitely ask Google. Get out there and do your own fact finding. Be your own sleuth, if you will, and find your way to some answers. If we're going to just continue in the vein of asking questions but not finding answers, we're going to get nowhere. So I agree that we can all do better, and I thank you for your contribution to that mission of doing better. Tom Iland, again, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your insights regarding awareness/acceptance and the need for better acknowledgement of both. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. My best to your lovely mother. And make sure you drop all your information, including where people can find the book, Come to Life, in the comments below. Will you do that for us?
Certainly, Loren.
Okay. Thank you so much. We're going to send you back downstairs in the elevator, and you'll probably pass Tucker Bearden, who will be hopping in as you get out. Okay?
Great.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
Thank you so much for having me, Loren. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Okay, everybody. Well, there you go. Now, while I'm waiting for Tucker, I want to say a couple things. Yeah, you saw I mentioned that, as recently as 1944, autism was just a big question mark, and people that suffered from the different things across that spectrum were considered, for the most part, just Insane. Now that thought process in and of itself is what's insane, right? Now that we know what we know. So let's just imagine, go ahead, another 40 years or whatever it is, or 80 years, and hopefully by the time we as a people reach that milestone, we'll be even more enlightened, and the world will be a better place from both sides of this discussion. Did you know? I got some names of a few famous people who fall within the autism spectrum that you may not have been aware of. For instance, Mozart had autism. James Dubin, an American Idol season 10 finalist. Daryl Hannah, I did not know. Tim Burton, Andy Warhol, Courtney Love, and also Dan Aykroyd. So that's just a few of the many people that are within this world that we're trying to learn more about and be more supportive of. So while I'm going to try to send the elevator in and search for my guy Tucker so we can hear what he has to say. There he is. I'm going to invite him. I just sent that. And while we're waiting on Tucker, here's some myths that I also found that you might find interesting. Things that people generally get wrong when it pertains to autism. Number one is autism is contagious. Really? I mean, I'm sure somebody thinks that. I never did. But just the fact that someone does, and it's the number one on their list. So, right? Come on. Autism is caused by vaccines. Didn't know that one either. Did you? Number three, autism is a disease. Now, I had to ask myself, well, is that what I thought? And I kind of did, I think. You know what I mean? And it's not. So I'm learning. Also, Tucker, I see you sending laugh smiles up on the thing. Did you get your invitation? Get on that elevator, boy. Number four, autism is a tragedy. That was interesting. Now, I found all of these on the autismacceptancemonth.com site. So if you want to go and get all the information that comes with each of these myths, feel free to go to that site and you'll find it. Number five was that autistic people are eternal children. I think that's kind of what Tom was talking about when he kept going into the rocking mode, that we all think that they're just like, blah, blah, blah. That's not the case. I had another myth in place of that, which is coming up. Myth number 6, you can grow out of autism. Now, I didn't think that, but I could see how someone could think that. Number 7, autism means not being able to speak. I didn't think that one, but I could see how someone could get, confused about that. Number 8, autism means intellectual disability. Now, I probably have been guilty of that until I started incorporating people from the autism world into my world. And then I learned differently. So yeah, I've been guilty of that one myself. Number 9. Now this I didn't understand. I never thought this. Autistic people lack empathy. I don't know why that would be, but you know what I'm saying. Myths like rumors. Number 10. All autistic people are savants. And I kind of thought that. I thought they all had that special little gift, like they could do math, like Rain Man. I kind of thought that. I don't know. Did you? Avril says, Tucker, get on here. And Tucker, where are you? Number 10. No, I'm sorry, number 11. Autistic people suffer from autism. Now, see, that's kind of what Tom was getting into. Now, I thought that. See what I'm saying? And then, only boys are autistic. Tom touched on that more and more women are being diagnosed across the spectrum. And I did not know that people were under the impression that it was primarily boys. So I've learned a lot here today, which right there, in and of itself, is proof that the fact that there is an autism awareness, because like Tom said, in order to be accepting of something, you first must be aware of something, correct? Tucker says, I'm here, invite me. I did invite you. Tucker, I sent it. You know what, you guys? I'm gonna... Uh-oh. Stay there. Can you see me? Uh-oh. Hold on, you guys. Bear with me. I'm going to try him one more time. No, Tucker, I've already sent it. So you know what I'm going to do, you guys? Bear with me. I'm going to go all the way back to where he first came on and see if I can pull him in. You know, I've never done two people in one show where one left and the other one came on. Tucker Bearden, there you, wait a minute. Bear with me. Okay, there. There's where it says I can add you. But where'd you... Oh, my Lord. Tucker, you might have to turn your phone off and come back in. Oh, can't bring Tucker on. Tucker, it says I can't bring you on. I don't know why. They can't join your broadcast at this time. So, Tucker, turn your phone off and come back in. Can you, or get out and come back in. Let's try that. So anyway, how do you guys feel? I mean, do you know, I'm sorry about this brightness, you guys. I really am. Please forgive me. I mean, how do you feel about this? Did you realize that that people with autism felt like second-class citizens? Did you know that they had so many hurdles as far as there's Tucker.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Oh my goodness. Alexa's in the other room talking back. I'm not even talking to her. Okay, bring Tucker on camera. There, Tucker will be here any second. So, I mean, I really know. And I guess that's the purpose. Well, hello, Tuck.
Hello.
How are you, Tucker?
I'm really good this morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm mad with this brightness thing going on. But other than that, in about 16 senior moments in the first 10 minutes of my day, I'm good. Got my new mug today. I love you to the moon and back, given to me by Brian in my basket for Easter. And I see you're in your robe. Thank you for that. So you heard a little bit about what Tom and I were talking about.
Yes, sir.
So what's your take on this awareness versus acceptance?
I believe that the acceptance part.
First of all, Tucker, tell people what makes you an authority on anything autistic or of autism nature. What is it you deal with?
Well, I was diagnosed at around 8 years old with Asperger's, which is a neurological abnormality that hinders your ability to understand social cues and emotional responses. There are quite a few other things that go along with it, but we'd be here all day long if I tried to explain it. It was like Tom said, and you've experienced this talking to me before. People with autism, specifically Asperger's, have a tendency to ramble for extended periods of time about subjects that they're either knowledgeable of or simply have interest in. And me personally, my biggest problem throughout my life was expression of emotion and understanding when I've gone too far in conversation. I have a tendency to offend people and say things that are hurtful and not understand that's what's going on in the moment because of lack of facial expressions and things of that nature. My ability to understand them. It's kind of like if you take a kid that takes someone who speaks English, you drop them in the middle of China with no guide and tell them learn the language. Well, that's what it feels like trying to figure out people. So yeah, it says I'm an authority because not only have I throughout my entire life I've dealt with Asperger's and learned to embrace and live with it. But I've actually worked with other kids that have Asperger's and other people on the spectrum, and I found that the answer to understanding and accepting it is simply removing personal judgment from your observation. Because see, people don't understand autism and people with autism or accept us because they fear, but what people don't fear, or what people don't understand, people fear, and what people fear, people destroy. So they try to cure, quote unquote, or pump people full of medication and tell them that, well, you can live this way or this way and you'll be
Right.
all right, instead of embracing life for what it is and learning to not cope, because it's not about coping. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you cope with something, you accept that's how it is, and
Okay.
I'm just gonna deal with it.
Okay. Here's where we're gonna go with this, because
Mhm.
it is World Autism Awareness / Acceptance Day. So my goal today here on this show is to hopefully, from your perspective, just as with Tom's perspective, give some insight, shed some light for those of us out here who are basically moving through the world of awareness and acceptance of autism from a place of ignorance. Okay, so I want you to, what can we do to make it better, to make it easier, to make it feel more the way it should be for a person with autism without knowing. I mean, I really don't know. Now, for instance, I'm going to go in there. You said, remember when you have a story about when you were working at the Piggly Wiggly, and the woman who caused the entire thing that drove you to trying to kill yourself later that day. Out of her mouth came words like, "Who hired this retard? Why do you have a retard working here?" And, yeah, I read where they said in 1944, prior to that, people were considered insane that had it. But I believe that a lot of people nowadays, and all through those decades and still today, will see a person that is suffering with whatever, or dealing with whatever it is they deal with through their autism, and look at them and say, "Ooh, that person's retarded," the R word. And I don't care what people say. They still say, politically correct, that they don't say that anymore. They say special needs and all these little clever things. But you know what a lot of them are thinking, because you heard it come out of a woman's mouth. I think hearing how that made you feel and how that continues to make you feel could be one of the things that we need to hear, instead of a bunch of, you know what I mean? That's a real living example of how hurtful people that don't know better can be. So what do you say to that?
I say that people, if you take someone who doesn't know about autism, okay, when they first meet someone with autism, whether it be somebody like myself who functions at an extremely rapid level, or someone who has trouble functioning at all, it comes back down to removing personal judgment from your perception. Because here's the thing: when you see someone who is different, your first action, subconsciously and consciously, is generally to judge them in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You say, "Oh, well, that person's weird," or they're not, this person over here. We don't want to deal with them. Hey, tell Brian I said hi.
Brian, everybody said hi. They just saw you walk by. He said, "Oh God." Go ahead, Tucker.
Anyway, people, when they see somebody who's different, their first initiation is judgment, whether it be outboard or inward. When you initiate a conversation or a situation with judgment, then you blind yourself to the reality of that situation, because our personal perception 99% of the time does not relay truth. That's why I say to people that the truth has no language. I can speak to
Mm-hmm.
you the same truth in English, Spanish, and even Mandarin Chinese. And all three ways that I speak that, the truth speaks volumes. And what people don't understand about autism is that it is not a disability. The only disability is a bad attitude. Um, Autism is, look at what you said earlier. People in the greatest minds in history were known to have neurological abnormalities that gave them personal advances in life. So if we look at it in that way, you come to understand that autism is Mother Nature's attempt at changing the world. Greatness starts in the womb. Greatness is found in the peers. But if labeled incapable and told that they're different and that there's something wrong with them at a small age or even by strangers, someone with autism, someone who was meant to do great things in this world could very easily be turned off of that path and go to one of self-destruction or even destruction of others. Like for instance, what happened with me. Uh, I I was throughout my life. It was so hard to try and communicate with people because not only is it not being able to understand that this is angry and that is happy. It's more than that. It's the inability to explain our own comprehension of the world. Like for instance, my robe. It's the same texture as my blanket, which is the same texture as my bed, which is the exact same texture that I wear in my shirts and my pants. I wear the same. If you look at my clothing, every bit of it is made up of generally the same stuff. And when I was younger, I would freak out for things like a washcloth, for instance. I despise washcloths because their texture, unless they're wet, the texture will actually cause me to freak out. Like it's called hypersensitivity.
Hmm.
Well, people that don't know anything about autism, people that say they were completely ignorant, and now let's clarify that because I heard y'all speaking of people misunderstanding earlier and taking things too far. Ignorance is defined as the lack of knowledge on a specific subject. So let's make that perfectly clear. Someone who lives within ignorance on when it comes to the spectrum may approach someone who is doing this, or in my case, rocking and doing this. Like I have a tendency to do that. You see someone doing that, and you think automatically you're like, "Oh my God, they're different. That person's weird. I got to get away from them." Hence, why in the past they used to take people with autism and chain them up and put them in prisons and spray them with cold water and electrocute them every day to try and make them normal. But honestly, step back, and I tell this to anyone. They say, "Well, that's not normal." Give me a moment, please, of your time. Explain to me what is normal. Can you? Really? Can you really?
Can you really?
Normal,
Can you?
really.
I'm just saying.
But
I agree.
normal is no more than something that is normal is when everything acts within your version of how the world is perceived. That is what normal is defined as, your personal perception as to how things should be. And no one's personal perception is the broadened reality. We're humans. We're not capable of grasping that.
So Tucker, um, how involved are you? Were you? I mean, you. I want to know because I heard from Tom saying we heard that he's on the autism board out there for Autism Speaks and all this, and so we see what he does, and then but there is that divide between the way people who are within the autism world see themselves, and so the 1 to 2% of people that live within this world are split. They're divided with how to be approached and whatnot. And do you feel that this this needs to be looked at and fixed too, so that you all can come together, excuse me, as in the fullness, so you can have as much representation as possible? Because if you look at it one way and Tom looks at it another way, and I'm friends with both of you, where does that leave me? Trying to decide what's the right way. So I know what you're saying. The right way is to remove judgment. And I don't believe it's all about what somebody calls you. I believe it's about how somebody treats you.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Like,
I don't care if somebody, okay, yeah, I might look at you a little crazy if you say, you're such a nice colored guy. Because I'm thinking, okay, do you live next door to Archie Bunker? But I'm not going to be offended. Like, I'm not going to automatically think you're a racist, because I know now that that probably came down your history. Down grandfather, that's what you heard at home, or this, that, and the other. But the matter is, you're talking to me, and the way you treat me. Because I think, too, when people don't know, that's the perfect time for a person who does know to turn the tide. You see, I can't go out and learn more about, I wouldn't have known today was World Autism Awareness / Acceptance Day if Tom hadn't brought it to me. You know, so I believe, you know what I wish? I wish there was a way, I wish there was Autism Coming Out Day, because I believe I have more people in my world that live within that spectrum than I know. Like they're in the
generally
closet with
people
it.
do. Generally people do. And here's the thing. At today's current rate, 1 in 64 children will be diagnosed with autism. 43 out of those 64 will not be diagnosed correctly. Now, if you don't diagnose something correctly, one thing to understand is, regardless of your diagnosis, there are not any two autistic people who are the same. That's just how
No
it is.
two.
I mean, no, there are not any.
So just because you have autism, I mean, you have Asperger's, and say, for instance, my neighbor kid has Asperger's, doesn't mean that you're anywhere near the same with what you're dealing with.
Not going to say that we're not near the same, because we do a lot of the same things. But you have to understand that there is, and this is something a lot of people cannot seem to grasp. People say, well, that person has Asperger's, so they have to act this way. Or this person is this, so they have to be this way. And it's not. Like, for instance, I've met a lot of different people with Asperger's. And I've seen the different types of autism that people can experience. Because, see, for instance, you can take someone who has Asperger's and doesn't even speak, but they're brilliant in other ways. And then you have people who can speak and are brilliant in other ways, or completely and totally ignorant in others. I mean, you can on the spectrum they use labels. Okay, it's like Tom was saying. He said, whenever you say this person is autistic, you label that person as being something specific. When the diagnosis of autism is no more than the realization that you have something extra that the world does not have. What that specific extra is not defined by your diagnosis. It is simply realized. It is simply a realization that you are different. And that is not a bad thing. Personally, I would rather be different. I would rather to be able to do the things that I do, and go through the hardships that I went through, instead of living a normal life and being like these other people who lived in their normal, quote unquote, world, and had to learn that there is how do I even put that into words? Someone who's never experienced autism, someone who's never seen it. They've lived in their normal world. They've went to school their whole life. They got a 9-to-5 job. They do what the society has designed for them to do. And then they all of a sudden meet someone with autism. It's suddenly a shock. It's like, well, what's wrong with this person? But what people really, like I said, besides removing personal judgment from your perception, I think what people need to understand is that difference is a gift in itself. And
True.
if you take a moment to actually if you meet someone with autism, like for instance, when I meet someone in public that has autism, and it's a obvious autism, it's not like mine, which I can hide for the most part, unless you're around me too much. When someone who's obvious, approach them, but approach them lightly. Because most people, for instance, me and you had an incident, not between us, but at the Mirage Hotel in Vegas. A man approached me and you when we were playing the game, and he kept getting closer to me, and closer and closer, and he even, I believe, at one point even tried to give me a hug. And you were able to see and bring to light, hey, you're going too far. You need to back off. He's fixing to freak out. Back off. You were able to relay that message in the moment. I wasn't. People on the spectrum need people who are not on the spectrum to understand this and help share it, because just because you've never met someone with autism doesn't mean you can't recognize difference. It doesn't have to be someone with autism. Just someone that's different. They're in a situation, you obviously can see it, and you can see that there's something that needs to be done in this situation, but because no one else is saying anything, no one else is doing anything, I'm just going to step back, or I'm going to join the crowd.
Right.
And that is the problem.
That's a great point.
People are seeing the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we wrap up, I think that's a great note to leave people with, that, it's time to really cease and desist with the mindset of, I'm not going to get involved. It's not my problem. It's safer to stay out of things. But also, you don't want to be stupid. You see what I mean? And but we all need to do better as far as finding out what means what, and how it fits best into our world to try to be a part of the solution. If we all find a little bit of something, we'll end up with a whole bunch more than a whole lot of nothing. So I encourage everyone out there to go and look around today and try to find as much information as you can about autism, not just awareness, but more importantly, or equally importantly, important acceptance. And Tucker, I want to thank you for coming on today again and sharing how this affects your world and how you feel that we can make the world that you live in better, because I know with you around, the world that I live in is better. So I see that it is an important endeavor for each and every one of us to at least consider. May you what? Grasshopper?
Leave with something. I'd like to leave them with one last message.
Okay, and what would that be?
I think Tom was attempting to relay this in his conversation, and I want to remind people, and this is not just autism. This is any and every endeavor that anyone will face. Peace doesn't come from the waterfall. The waterfall doesn't know peace. Peace comes from within. It comes from personal understanding. Just because the world doesn't understand you, or understand or perceive how you perceive the world, doesn't mean that there's something wrong. It just means that you are different, and therefore you are a blessing to the world. And we all know that if you be the blessing, you live within blessings. So
Absolutely.
Be blessed.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tucker. Do me a favor. When I send you back downstairs in the elevator, go ahead and drop your information in the comments, if you will. So if people want to continue this dialogue with you, they'll know where to find you. And Tucker is working on his book, which we'll make sure we'll let you know when that launches. And Tucker, the title of that book again is?
From the Sticks to the Stage, My Journey with Asperger's.
From the Sticks to the Stage. From the Sticks to the Stage. You got to say it like that. So anyway, Tucker, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. You're my guy. Thank you so, so much. Get out there and continue what you're doing. And, you'll be back probably 1,000 times before this is all said and done. So thank you so much for all you had to give us today.
All right. Bless you.
You too. So everybody, there we go. It is, again, we're wrapping up what we've learned today from Tom Iland. Make sure you drop in and take a look into his book, Come to Life, and then follow him wherever you can, and Tucker Bearden as well. His book's not out yet, but it's on the way, so just stay in touch. Anyone who knows, you can call Tucker, you can reach out, you can hit him up on Messenger, whatever. He's always happy to share his thoughts with you. So I just want to say today, again, World Autism Awareness / Acceptance Day. See what you can do to learn a little bit more about how we, as a people, as a force, as a movement, can do better in all ways. Autism is around us, it is a part of us, and we can all learn from a day like today. Every day needs to be Autism Awareness / Acceptance Day, not just April 2nd and not just the month of April. So I want to thank you for joining me. Get out there now and do what it is we do, and that is love up on everyone that you possibly can. But remember, first, you must start by loving on yourselves. I want to remind each and every one of you to hop over to powerofwesymposium.com. Check out what we're doing here in Chicago at the Stan Mansion on September 20th, where we will be bringing in some dynamic speakers, men and women, and we are uplifting, edifying, and empowering 200 plus at-risk youth from around the Chicago, Indiana, and Michigan area. So please hop over and take a look at what we're doing there. I am still looking for guests. I posted it this morning. I think I have someone for tomorrow, but I still have to confirm with them. And I'm hoping it's Terrence Leftridge. I'll let you know later today. But I also have openings for the 5th, Thursday, and the 6th, Friday. This Wednesday, it is her birthday, and my special guest will be Avril Jones. You won't want to miss that segment. For sure, for sure. So get out there today and just grab every blessing that you possibly can. But that should lead you to the most important place of all, and that is the realization of how wonderful it is when you are the blessing. I'm Loren Michaels Harris. This has been your Bathrobe Moment. And as always, I say I am a better version of myself because of having been here with you. Hit the notifications button so that you don't miss any of the great content that you're going to find here. And then do your part in changing this world. Hit the share button. Somebody you know or someplace it will go will and could be very well the very place that this information needs to land. So hit the share button and do your part. Together, we can do great things. Alone, not so much. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning, God willing, 8 a.m. Central, and we'll do it all over again. I'm Loren Michaels Harris. Have a blessed day and be that blessing. Thank you.